Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1987 Alfa Romeo Milano. Up front is a 2.5 liter V6, and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Alfa Romeo because I haven't driven anything from this brand this old. I'm only really familiar with, at least here on the channel, with the modern Stellantis Alfa Romeo products, and I decently like them. I recently drove the new Tonale, but this is different. This is, well, quite different. And so I'm excited to share my thoughts on it here today with you. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me, you can head on over to my website, zackpreidel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter V6 under the hood. Well, it's a pretty low displacement V6, which I really like because it makes it very buzzy. It's very, very fun to use and abuse because it's the same size as an inline 4, or most traditional inline 4s, but you get 2 extra cylinders, so you do feel that extra torque when going around town, which is actually quite lovely. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 5-speed manual transmission, and it actually is a rear-mounted transmission, which is very interesting. However, the gearing is very, very short. I'm doing about 40 to 50, and I'm already in top gear. It is real quick right up through the gears, which paired to that small displacement V6 makes this thing actually feel very, very quick. Last but not least, the Milano is rear-wheel drive, as we talked about with that rear-mounted transmission, and the rear disc brakes are actually inboard mounted. So the discs are actually closer to the transaxle than the actual wheels themselves. Very interesting, and I've only ever experienced that in a TVR. So how's it feel to drive the Alfa Romeo Milano? Well, if you can hear the sound of my voice, this window doesn't go up, so I'm gonna be shouting most of the video. It is quick, it's zippy, it's very sculpted in the way that it just pushes forward, and it really is an absolute delight to drive. I could understand driving this car and genuinely feeling like a race car driver because you get all of those great inputs. The steering is stiff enough to make it feel sporty. The throttle is very responsive and feels very analog. The engine is buzzy and zippy. The transmission, short gears, tossing it. Absolutely love the dynamics of this car. The only downside is that these are not super reliable and parts are very expensive. So if you want to fix anything, get ready to shell out at least 200 bucks right off the bat. So with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have very clean and simple gauges. Off to the left, I have my tachometer. In the center is my speedometer. And off to the right, I have my fuel, coolant temperature, and oil pressure. The steering wheel has been swapped out for the leather unit as opposed to the foam unit. However, it does say Alfa Romeo, and I really enjoy it. Off to the left, I do have my rear defrost and hazard switch, as well as a tiny little climate control vent. And moving onto the door, I just have my manual mirror adjustments, and that's it. Nothing else found on the door card. Moving into the center, we get a bunch of warning lights, and because it's an Alfa Romeo, they're all on, but it makes this really interesting noise when you first turn it on. Take a listen. Reminds me of something from like the 60s, like a missile incoming or some sci-fi sound. I actually kind of enjoy that. Off to the left of that, we have our front and rear fog lights. Then we do have a Milano badge, 2 climate control vents. Then we have our climate controls, very simple and basic. But what's weird is that there's a little diagram to the upper right of the climate controls. I'm not really sure why Alfa Romeo did this. Yes, I know what they look like. Thank you for the quick reminder. Then I do have an aftermarket radio, and we come to the shifter. Shifter's a traditional 5-speed pattern with reverse where 6th gear would be. Some cubbies, and then we come into the center console. Some cubby space, which are not cup holders, so unfortunately, but predictably, the Alfa Romeo Milano from 1987 fails the big friggin' bottle test. But then moving into the center console, this is the parking brake that goes along the outside. It's almost like a fighter jet's thruster. It's insanely odd. You'll also find the window switches down here. Very, very interesting placement from Alfa Romeo. I do want to talk about the glove box, which is not a glove box. It is, as the owner put it, a glove drawer. Very, very weird. But then moving on to the seats, my driver's seat is not the original seat. It's some aftermarket seat pulled out of a Toyota Celica that was probably pulled out of something else way before, but it is enjoyable. However, the passenger seat and the rear seats are the factory seats if you wanted to get an idea of what that fabric was like. However, speaking of those original back seats, let's hop back there and do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1987 Alfa Romeo Milano Silver, and a couple of things to note. First of all, I do have a light up here. It kind of looks like an aircraft or airplane vent, which is very interesting. My head is coming close to hitting the ceiling. It's not super comfy, although this headliner has been redone. But the seats are actually very comfortable. You sort of sink down into them like their own buckets. And this was a sports sedan of the era, so that makes perfect sense. So I could imagine, a dad with his kids and, he says, hold on. And, the kid sits in here, probably feels like a real race car to them. So very, very cool to see that. I did want to note, I forgot, the door handles to get in, both on the front and back, are very, very strange on the outside. But other than that, I get a little center console. Nothing really crazy to write home about, but that's it. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the Milano. Pull it up like that, and here is the rear trunk space. Nothing crazy, nothing really to write home about, but it is a decent sized sedan, and so that is very cool. However, I do want to note a couple things up here. Really just the stickers. I find this very, very interesting. If you want to pause to try to read that Alfa Romeo had that, the specified lubricants, which is very interesting. A couple warnings, things like that. But overall, nothing too crazy found in the back of the Alfa Romeo Milano, but just very, very cool to see. Now we got to talk about the looks, and this car is very interesting. It's not very outwardly pretty, but it's cool to be looking at an Alfa Romeo. At least in my personal life and work life, to be fair, I don't really deal with a lot of Alfa Romeos, and so it's very cool to see that badge. It looks very, very European, so it can't really be helped there. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the oldest Alfa Romeo I've ever driven, the Milano? Well, it's happy and sad at the same time. It's sad because of the reliability and durability of these cars. This car is currently living on life support and will remain that way until it's crushed into a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot cube. And that's sad to me because the driving feel is so wonderful. Out on these Oregon back roads, I'm having an absolute blast. But I know that it's just waiting in the wings to break. I know that if I do something wrong or don't give it the love and attention it wants, it's gonna bite me. And it's gonna bite me real hard. Which sucks because I don't like living with worry. I don't like driving cars with worry, especially when this is my full-time job. It's not very fun to have to worry about things. Let's see if second gear came to play ball. Second gear, thank you! It's that sort of relationship that's a temperamental hang. That friend that's a lot of fun, but you can't bring him to every function. You can't bring him to every party. He might get a little too fun or a little too loud, and he might make a fool of himself. So for his own benefit, don't take him to the office Christmas party. Same thing with this. I wouldn't take this out on date night. I wouldn't take it to my cousin's first Holy Communion. But on a day like today, out on these back roads with no one out here and I got nothing but time, this is the car I want to be in. You just have to learn to live with the consequences. Some people are ready for that. Some people aren't, but at least I'm having fun while figuring that out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Ryan for letting me take out his Alfa Romeo Milano Silver. Ryan's been fantastic to work with. I also filmed his Chrysler Cordoba. You'll see either up on the channel soon or it's already up on the channel. I don't know how the scheduling is going to work out. But Ryan has been fantastic, salt of the earth. I look forward to working with him more in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.